Hey everyone, welcome to the Eurovision Fam aftermath of the 2025 competition live stream. And I'm joined by more than just me. I've got like a bunch of the Eurovision Fam team here. And I guess we have to just have everyone introduce themselves. So you guys already know me. I'm Lily Love Stuff. I'm on the video team. Next.
And then my name is Kevin. I am the resident from Canada on the team. And I am currently working on some jury analysis. So some will be coming in a blog later on our website.
And I'm Andrew, also known as Ref Gordo on all the social medias. I am coming to you from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. My area of expertise in Eurovision, since it seems as though we're all kind of picking a little bit of a niche here, is I would say post-pandemic Eurovision. And that's sort of my vibe.
And I'm Brooke. I'm a part of our editorial team, and you can find me as Helping Friendly on most social media, or just find the Eurovision Fam account, and you'll get linked to me somehow there.
Well, hi everybody. I'm Augusto. I'm from the beautiful Dominican Republic. I cover all things in the Spanish-speaking world of Eurovision for our team. I also run the social media. On X, you can find me as at AC Dominguez, or just look for me on all other social medias. And thank you for being along and chatting with us.
Hello, everybody. This is Elda from the editorial team. You can find me writing small pieces, explainers, even longer think pieces about cultural diplomacy. And I'm pretty much unknown in Twitter and Instagram, but you can find me where you can find me. Nice to see you, everyone.
I'm muted. I just dropped my notes, just fell on the floor. Yes. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on the stream. I see we have a couple of people in chat who are here and our usuals, accusing us of being paid shills for pineapple and pizza propaganda. I'm sorry, it tastes good, and your like taste buds can't handle the savory and sweet combination. But yeah, we've had about 2 weeks now to settle into these results post show. We know we're going to Austria next year, and we have our top 10. We have everything that happened. Were there any results that like kind of stood out to you as a bit surprising now that we've been able to really dive into the numbers?
I can start if that works. I think instead of talking about the surprises that kind of were lifted up, I felt really weird looking at the way the numbers were shaking out, especially before the voting tallies came in, and that Sweden, the what's perceived to be front runner, was kind of just not even outside looking in. I don't even think they were in the same game, and that was just really surprising to me. Just the way they were touted, the way they kind of presented themselves. Not to say that they were arrogant, but they like came to play. They did the thing. They performed at such a high level, and it's almost as if it was such a hotly contested, we'll call it primary, but we'll say national competition in Sweden, that maybe there are just a lot of folks, and maybe it impacted the jurors' thoughts of the performance as well. But I'm going to start there and say Sweden didn't Sweden like we thought Sweden would Sweden. And we will start, I think, with that.
I've heard of a possible theory in that the field that Barabata Bostu was in was different from the Melfest and Eurovision. With Melfest, remember when they were announced, they were last in the odds and weren't considered to be frontrunners until later on in the selection. Whereas in Eurovision, they were front-on contenders as soon as they won. There's also that uniqueness they bring to Melody Festival, whereas in Eurovision, with the increase of national languages and folk influences, it might not have stood out in the way it wanted.
Well, to me, I think a result that definitely shocked me was the debacle of some of the favorites, not necessarily Sweden, but like France, for example. I thought a lot more people was going to fall for it. Um, who else? I'm also very surprised that the diasporas woke up for Albania and Poland. Thank you for coming in and give us nice news during one of the craziest voting segments we've had in years. This is what, and also another thing that really shocked me is how spread out the points ended up being. Although we had a couple zeros, a lot of people got points. Like the spread was crazy. We almost have the 2021 repeat of more than 2 countries with 0 points at the televote. And it was pretty interesting. I have to say, like, these results are telling of many, many, many things that when the year is not very competitive, it turns out very divisive. And when the year is very divisive, the spread goes crazy and anything could happen and anybody could win.
Well, yeah, and on that note, there were only, I think, 3 countries this year that actually got over 100 from both jury and public vote. And yeah, Sweden technically was like second in that list, in that their minimum score from either jury or public vote, was 126. And they placed second with that as their lower of the two. Austria, which won, was the only one to get more than 126 with both. And that's something I think we have not really seen in a while. And yeah, to the Sweden point, I think part of it might be also we're used to the last couple of years just seeing the favorite huge in the odds and then following through. So there's that expectation it's going to follow through again. Although I think we had a slight feeling like it's not the same like the last couple of years and that it did feel still divided. But yeah, I think it was pretty surprising when we got to the point where Sweden could have taken the lead and all of a sudden they did not, and not even close. Like they got nowhere near like Baby Lasagna, Karia numbers in the televote. So don't know exactly what happened, but yeah, for me, Albania and Poland, I think in the jury results, those were like shockingly low for what I was expecting.
You know, I'll be honest, the lower than expected points for Sweden might have been the thing that kept my heart beating for the next several groups of votes, because there have been years where I have actually totaled the points where I'm like, it's this many points are available, and I'm subtracting all the way down so I know exactly what's left. And I didn't do that this year because I didn't have a calculator really handy. And so I had no idea what was left. I'm seeing these different numbers drop. And so Sweden's there, and I'm like, well, here we go. Like, this is going to be big and not big enough. And what does that mean? And what's left? And where are we going to, like, what is happening? And so when that number was lower than I thought it was going to be, I had a moment to breathe. And it still was pretty stressful for the rest of the time anyway. Even seeing France get 50, seeing Switzerland get 0, I was still like, I didn't do any math. I don't know. Does that mean there's no points left? Are there no points for anyone? Yeah, so it's one of those pieces where there's that little bit of disappointment I have for some of the results for some of my favorite, but with every point less that they got, I'm like, well, you know what? It worked out for us all in the end. And so I can't get myself worked up about the votes that weren't there. I'm just kind of like, that was the universe just getting us through this particular year.
Well, I think when it comes to Sweden and their points, if we compare it to the betting odds, remember, people start betting on Eurovision as soon as the year before it ends. So I actually have the odds pulled up for next year already, and Sweden is sitting at the top of the odds. They're tied right now with 3 other countries, but Sweden is sitting there right up in the top. And Ukraine is also sitting up there right in the top too, because of course they are, because it's like you just make a safe bet. So I think a lot of that may have just been residual energy. And then people saw Mons was going to be coming back to Melfest. So there was like, Kai kind of started out with a boost in the odds because people were like, oh, of course Mons is going to win and Eurovision is going to go to Sweden again because of course they're going to win again. Which, I'm sorry, if you look at statistically what happens, statistically you do worse your second time at Eurovision than you do your first time at Eurovision, just generally speaking. There are exceptions to the rules. San Marino is like the opposite of that, where usually your second or third time you do better than you did your first time. Yeah. Just sort of in that kind of energy, in that kind of space. The points this year being so spread out was really exciting because it's like I hate when I'm watching the show and everything's clumped together until we got to the one point where I was terrified. But I think that like overall, this wasn't a very strong year to me personally, but overall seeing the fleet so much more spread out was more satisfying than it has been. I think we have to go back like probably 2011-ish for the last time we saw such a spread out like result happening there.
We also saw Latvia got a couple of dues points from the jury, and they came 7th in the jury and mid-table overall. So that was a happy surprise in that regard.
Even Germany got points, like got 12s from the juries. And that surprised me a little bit. And it's the most 2025 sounding song of the bunch. And they also got love, which I appreciate and I also commend. So thank you, juries, for giving Germany love and telling the people that bougie people rave from Central Europe is trendy and it's something that we need. So cheers to that.
Plus, the Baller's doing really well commercially, so hopefully Albert and Tina could build on that and become more successful over time.
I will say there's usually that infiltration of Eurovision songs that go into my workout playlists, and Baller was the first one this year that really joined the fray, and I was like on a run and it came up and I was like, yeah, I'm glad it was you, Germany. I'm glad it was you. There's a whole bunch more now, but yeah, I love seeing the commercial success for them. As a quick aside, as we talk about like commercial and like life after songs, in my household, especially for the younger generations and the future generations of Eurovision big time fans and eventual members of the Eurovision Fam editorial team in like 20 or 30 years, espresso macchiato was the biggie in our household, as it was, I think, in many places. And I can't go into a coffee shop or near a coffee shop without a little chuckle or smile to my face. And I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. And I just love that there's something to be said for legacy of a non-Eurovision winner, but I think Tommy Cash has that. And I think that he'll continue to be a quote-unquote family name, very similar to how Cha 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 was, and how there's just been a lot of artists over time that I felt that way. And I think this year this is fun. But anyway, I want to give a little shout out to Espresso Macchiato.
And then
Curiously, I've heard a theory that the espresso macchiato part sort of nullified some of the televotes Sweden could have had. And would that mean we have more of these quote unquote "it's crazy, it's party" songs that are going on in the long term? Or do we have to bring the jury back so it doesn't swamp up the contest?
I mean, I have that fear to a certain extent, but I think when you have a year where there's multiples of those, I have a theory as to why Espresso Macchiato did better than other ones. And that would basically be something that ties into something we're going to be talking about later. But I think a huge thing that hindered a lot of the crazy party songs or the more upbeat up tempo songs this year is the lack of audience sound. Like the lack of audience audio, I think really hurt a lot of the things that we thought were going to be more storming the televote. But I just wanted to highlight this one from Alicia Michelle, a Germany song, Needed Jury Love. It was actually a well-crafted current song. And that kind of ties into something else I wanted to talk about, which is Andrew, you brought it up, like songs we're still listening to, 2 weeks out, like who's made it to our main playlist or our regular playlist rotations. Because I know personally, I'm ready for a Bitter Sis summer. 2025, I'm going to be blasting that album because it was a solid album. And I've also been like hanging out with other people's music too. But if you want like a dancey summertime song or album, it's that Bitter Sis from Aber and Tina.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Like that's been on rotation since it came out. Super thrilled with that album.
For me, on my rotation, I'll have, of course, Germany, my banger of 2025, period. Ich komme, serving, of course. We gotta love camp. Better by the Bastu. I'm so sorry. I'm Team Party. This year, I really was Team It's Crazy, It's Party, because we need a party song winning. The mania will not stop until one of the It's Crazy, It's Party songs wins. Who else? Norway made it. I'm a little bit of a cornball, so Slovenia was my cornball song of the year. I'm not hiding it. I know that a lot of people are going to hold their hands in between when they tell me the song was going to not qualify. And I'm like, yes, beloved, I knew it was not going to qualify, but I still believe in it. And another honorable mention for those who like ballads and a little more corny, France and Switzerland made it. Those ballads are beautiful. I'm so sorry. I'm not gonna hide it. Both of them were top 10 for a reason. They were great. French language is great. I think we're good. And because of how many times I've listened to it because of commercials, I ended up falling for melody. And there I'll leave it.
For some reason, Lighter has been a constant rotation on my playlist. I know it's the folk influences that get me, or just the pre-chorus was really good, but it's been on my current rotation. Strobe Lights has also been on my rotation, even though it didn't qualify. I still feel like it's pretty atmospheric, and you could definitely go for a night out on that. I'm surprised there's not much commercial traction for that one. Other than that,
yeah, my issue with Norway is I can't listen to it anymore because I just think about how awful the grand final performance was. Like I want to like the song again. I really do, but I just picture the performance from Norway, and I'm just like, oh, I wanted it. Like it's tough being the first song in the grand final, and I totally get it. But it really is just so disappointing because I wanted to like that song more and I want to listen to it again and love it, but I can't. But to kind of go with sort of these other songs that have stuck with me, I will say it. I'm sorry, I'm going to steal Eldest Thunder, but Grease for me, I think the more and more I go down the line, the depth, the layers, the just beauty and talent of a song. Because some songs are just like you get your one little theme and it just goes over and over and over and over and over again. With Grease, is like, ooh, where are we going? Ooh, we're going somewhere else now. Ooh, we're going somewhere else now. And her voice is just beautiful. It's just the simplistic beauty. It's really, I the best way to kind of put it. I love the Netherlands too. I never understand why songs like that don't get the love that they should. The Netherlands to me is one of those that's just fantastic. And then the two, I'll just call out two other songs. Three. I love Essa Diva. We've already talked about Essa Diva. Also, I believe that she is native to the Malaga area, and that is a place that is very close to my heart. I have family that live out there that I visit annually, so it's just really cool, and my heart really wanted her to do much better, obviously, but also my brain and also my general appreciation for music. But the other two songs that I think are worth kind of calling out because they're so artistic and kind of a different view was Italy and Ukraine. Italy, because it's like, this is a ballad. I'm normally not into the subtitles for non-English songs, but the lyrics just made perfect sense to have up there, and it's such a good message. And then with Ukraine, maybe it's just the high school choir kid in me that really just loved it so much, but just that it's just the fluidity of it was just really fun, and it was different than a lot of the other songs this year. All right, I'm going to stop talking there, but those are just a few that I wanted to call out.
No,
Well,
I
when you said-
totally agree with those because you know that Lucho's on my playlist and will stay on my playlist like for life. Like that's established in this group. But really, I've got 4 songs that are kind of on the Eurovision playlist that I have together that I'll keep going back to. And that aside from Germany and Italy's not even on this. That's just separate. That's just not even on the Eurovision adjacent playlist. But
I understand.
Ukraine for me is one of those where it hit my top 5 as soon as it was in. It moved around within my top 10, but it never really left my top 10. And then it clicked that second time for me during the grand final watch when I just, I'd already seen it during the semifinal, loved it. There was something in the grand final. There was a little rawness in his voice that just hit me. And I had already put my votes in. And I was just like, I had split votes with my husband. We had each voted 10 times. I was like, we're each voting 10 more times because I didn't vote for Ukraine because I just voted for like my top 2. And I was like, I've got to throw the rest of my votes to Ukraine now. And the other 2 that are on rotation for me are Lithuania and Portugal. And like that, those aren't going to leave rotation. I adore those songs. Those are artists and albums that I'll just be turning to, regardless of those songs in particular. And that's what I love about Eurovision is discovering these artists that I wouldn't have heard of otherwise, who I can't just like fall in for one song, but who I'm like, there's a whole catalog that I get to keep exploring and keep following like a career and a path. So those are mine.
Well, yeah, I was going to say once Italy was mentioned, like you brightened up, which was shocking. Yeah, for me, I think a few songs have kind of slowly dropped off. So like Sweden, I would have had higher, but it's dropped off a little. It's still super fun, and I'm not going to take it off the playlist. But yeah, I think Germany, Albania, Netherlands, Malta, Greece, and Portugal are probably the like core ones that I can see for sure extending into the future. And then yeah, Sweden, even Estonia. It was interesting actually. I think I mentioned this maybe a few streams ago, or maybe just in conversation with some people, that Estonia's song was actually like presented in Canadian media in the news a couple of times. So I wasn't shocked at its result. But yeah, it is a fun song that I still listen to the odd time. And then Switzerland, if I'm in the right mood, and also Belgium, if I'm in the right mood.
Yeah, I think everyone hit on all mine. Lithuania, Ukraine, Portugal. I mean, look at my background. Albania, Germany. I think we've all said Germany at this point. Just great. And I'm not gonna lie, one of the things I like the most about this year's crop of Eurovision artists is that like a lot of them had albums or singles ready to go. Like leading up to Eurovision or right after the contest, there were like album drops and single drops, and I was so excited. I was like cheering because I'm sorry, this is a huge opportunity to have people come listen to your music. And like between Aber and Tina's album, it's also been Zifferblatt's album's been on rotation for me because it also has their song from Vidbeer last year on it, and I was obsessed with that song too. But yeah, like and then Chandrik Electronic, they've released a new album, a new single like this week. Klavda dropped an album. It's great. Like it's just like thank you. And like last year's crop of artists all dropped albums and singles this last couple of weeks too. So I've been like, you know what? Take advantage of people remembering you. But let's go ahead and kind of just talk about like our overall show now. We've discussed results or what we're keeping in. How about like the production of the show itself? How are we feeling that Switzerland did as a host?
I'll jump in. My biggest frustration, and I have said this before, is when you're having this type of show, when you're having a concert show, your first guiding principle has got to be getting the sound mix right. the first time. I don't want the sound mix to get better throughout the show. I don't want it to be not so great in semi one, a little better in two, better in the, but it didn't get better. It just, you've got to get that right. I don't need 25,000 different camera angles. I don't need drones of the crowd. I don't need all of this other stuff. I don't even need, well, I do need a good light show. I'm not going to lie, but I need you to get the sound right. Like, there's no excuse for the vocals being flat, not being forward in the mix, for just like falling behind. I want to hear the person singing over their background singers. And that just fell flat for me. And I feel like it was a complaint I had with Liverpool. I don't remember having it last year. And so that's one thing that I think Melfest, I think having, the experience of putting on these really good shows allows for a broadcaster to be dialed in when they get to host the big one. And so I do think it's one thing that's lacking with countries that do internal selections, or even the countries that do the really small penny ante type of national finals. Like, it's worth having that investment because you're going to need the sound to be right the week of Eurovision. So that's my biggest critique, or my biggest disappointment from Basel, and from what we got from the production on that end. It looked great. It seemed like a good arena. Of course, the crowd suppression is never going to go over with me, because again, that's affecting the sound quality just as well. I want to feel like I'm in a room that I cannot afford a ticket to. Like, I want to be a part of the crowd, and I want to be in there. So
yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. I think honestly the crowd suppression may have been what threw out the mix so bad, because they wanted to make sure whatever mic was being used, they wouldn't pick up on the crowd. And so maybe that was why the artist sounded so low, but it was distractingly bad. And I want to just give us a moment. If you're ready to rock and roll, give me a thumbs up, because we've got one more person for the team joining us. And that is, you all know him. You remember him. It is our wonderful Jordan / Shortcake ESC.
Bonjour, everyone. So, yeah, it seems like we're talking about audience suppression. Interesting for me to join in on this segment of the conversation. So, I'm sorry to interrupt. Where were we in this conversation?
Well, we were talking about the overall production of the show. So yeah, audience suppression was a part of that production. And I think that honestly, the audience suppression is again why we saw certain songs not do as well as we were expecting them to do. And the reason I think that Espresso Macchiato, beyond being just a favorite for people who are kind of like just casuals, is it's the only time we had any fan interaction, really. Like, I genuinely think if the audience wasn't so quiet, Australia probably would have made it through. Because how awkward is it to have this man stand there for a call and response moment and have no sound?
You sing. Yeah, I understand.
With Erica, in the track, there are cheers happening. Like, it's a part of the buildup of the whole thing, and not having that audience loudly cheering and whatnot, you're losing that. And
not to mention, the whole crowd was really riled up for Erica. Both in the press final, the grand final itself, people were rallying for her.
I need to pour a little out for Malta, especially in this regard too.
Yeah.
We remember we just talked about all these songs that are very kind of calm and responsive, that are very like, I would have loved to hear the reaction. I would love to hear it for the performance. So Malta is one of those, right? And I'm going to reference it because I do it any time I can. But even if you are going to silence parts of the artist, the people will go above it. And that's what I loved about, you guessed it, Eat Your Salad from Latvia a few years ago, with one of the most iconic and hide your children openers. But the crowd was like, we got you. And I love that sense of community and the way that people really would rally around songs like that. And yeah, you want to feel like you're there. You all know that I'm a wrestling person, a pro wrestling person. You're going to watch the performers perform, but you're also going because you're part of the crowd, you're part of the family. And this felt less familial, less engaging, per Sundrop Center's comment. Eurovision isn't Eurovision without the people. That's why there wasn't a contest in 2020 and people weren't having videos sort of separately in different rooms. And when 2021 came back, that was when you first felt like, hey, we're all back, we're all in this again. So yeah, I'm just quadrupling, five-tupling down. I don't know what the number is, but yeah, you can't silence a community when your theme used to be what, open up, and now it's music unites us or whatever it is. Like, not very united, not feeling very united, not very demure, not very mindful.
I agree with like Andrew just said. Another song that had the same effect of Latvia 2022 was Spain 2024. I just watched a video of the performance earlier this morning, and when the people are yelling, "Soy más zorra todavía," it's crazy. The people just go wild with the entries that are very fun and active and engaging. So yes, definitely suppressing the audience is one of the biggest mistakes of 2025. And I do not know about you guys, but I did feel that for the show to be in Switzerland, the show was too Swedish for my liking. When it comes to the script,
Like when Petra showed up.
not only that, but the script, the sketches, the musicals, everything felt too Swedish for my liking, and we were supposed to be in Switzerland. The sketches were funny. I'm not gonna lie. Some of them were funny, but probably I'm falling prey for watching Eurovision for pretty much 20 years now. But yeah, this felt too Swedish. Too Swedish for my liking. I'm not sure if I'm the only person that caught that it's a little too repetitive of 2024, 2016, 2013, some of the other years in between where the Swedish producers came in to save a whole thing. I almost say the wrong word. We're on YouTube. So basically, yeah, that's one of the things that disappointed me of 2025.
I feel like that's an interesting theory because I felt like the sketches were pretty solid and I liked what they had to provide on the table. At the same time, with your point, RE, too much Swedification, I wonder if that's a possibility that they're trying to duplicate 2016 over and over again because that production is pretty much acclaimed. And I'm not sure what would that mean for Austria when they have to host another anniversary edition, the 70th edition of the contest, because we're supposed to get a story of Eurovision and the story of the country within it, and not just have Swedification over and over again. If that means flaws, not 1991 style flaws, but just quirks, then so be it.
Well, I think 2017 is like the one that people go to, like they had to bring someone in to fix issues, but that still felt really Ukrainian. It didn't feel like it was just like the Swedes came in and took everything over. I'm pretty sure there were like a number of Swedish people on the staff this year, like Sasha Jean-Baptiste did a lot of the work on the production.
She did.
And Bjorkman was there doing his thing. So like there are Swedish people we're familiar with who were on the team. It's just I would have liked to see something of a more Swiss in-house thing, you know. When it comes to Austria, I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to bring. But did we have anything else anyone else wanted to mention about this year and the show?
What have we covered since I did join a little bit later? What has been part of the discussion?
Results, overall show. That's basically where we're at right now.
What song stuck around for you?
Yeah, what we've been keeping on rotation since, that kind of thing. So yeah, sorry. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the next topic, which is just like what changes we would like to see implemented, looking at what happened with this year, moving forward into future contests. I think all of us agree so far on get rid of the crowd suppression. Just get rid of it. Bye. We don't need that. Like, the audience is going to react how the audience is going to react. And if you feel the need to protect certain people who are competing more than allowing everyone to get their shine, then maybe those people shouldn't be in the contest. I'm just saying.
And to piggyback from that point, Lily, if there are going to be acts that are going to be booed, let the audience boo. This is not the first time we have the anti-booing techniques. 2014 was the first time. In 2015, it went to a peak we've never seen before until last year. I think the EBU needs to understand that this is a show for humans and a human viewing audience and a human consuming audience. And we are going to have reactions. Not all of them are going to be positive. It is impossible. It's very sad that they have to recur to these mechanisms to ensure a squeaky clean show, that the people who are behind them are not ensuring is as squeaky clean as they project it to be. It's not working anymore. So things need to change. I also agree a lot with, if a certain participation is causing issues within your audience or within your viewership, then you need to address that problem and see if by removing that factor, things things can change for the better, and the perception of the whole show does change into a more positive direction. We'll see. But let's hope that this month, when the new executive board for Eurovision within the EBU takes command, changes do happen. Let's pray that things do happen and not just another PR stunt of the many we've seen in recent months. So let's pray.
Not to mention what could happen. What does Eurovision want to be seen as? Do you want something more down to earth and more welcoming, or something a little more scripted? I've heard reports of last year being Eurovision acting like a fascist state, so to speak. And that also adds to what do you want to see from this contest? What does the EB want to see from this contest? What do we want as fans want to see from this contest? What the broadcasters want to see, and what the general audience wants.
There's an old saying that goes, what is it? And I'm again, shocking. I'm going to talk about pro wrestling again, but it's nobody hates pro wrestling more than pro wrestling fans. No, and I think that's very similar to what you're seeing with Eurovision. Nobody hates Eurovision more than Eurovision fans. And I don't say hate as in I'm never, ever, ever going to associate myself with it. It's the idea of you are feeling a very intense emotional reaction to something. Saying I hate you contains as much passion as saying I love you to someone. Think about it, right? This is what we're seeing now. If you're not encapsulating that passion and embracing it, then there's really no point. In pro wrestling, there are moments where, guess what? The person everybody wants to win doesn't win. And you know what happens? The crowd starts booing. The crowd starts getting angry. The crowd starts throwing things in the ring at people on the stage, making threats. This is the idea of what we call, kayfabe and keeping character. If I were Eurovision, I would clearly try to run it like pro wrestling. There's no suppression of the audience. If I were Martin Osterdahl and I was getting booed mercilessly, I wouldn't be hiding in a bunker, during the show itself. I would go on stage and I would do very much what you see during the NFL draft, where the commissioner goes up and goes, "You want to boo me? Go ahead. Come on. Keep booing me. Keep booing me." Because you know what happens? More and more people are going to watch it. More and more people are going to go, "Whoa, what was this thing? What's all of this booing? Why is everyone paying attention?" And that's the spectacle that becomes it. Eurovision purists may not like that, may not appreciate that. And I understand that. But that's why me, your post-pandemic specialist, is coming in with this sort of perspective. So I just wanted to sprinkle that in for a quick thought there. And
So you're hoping that Osterdahl will be courageous enough to be the heel of the contest?
Vic McMahon it up. His name's Vince. Oh my gosh, why did I say Vic?
Vince
I know
McMahon,
nothing about pro wrestling.
Yeah, I'm not asking him to be, to all of a sudden try to be the good guy. In fact, I want him to embrace that he's the heel. Elda hit it. Like, own it. Own that. If you don't want to change who you are, cool. People are going to love you for it or hate you for it. You just got to accept it.
Well, and that's
I
the
mean-
key there is that accountability. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. The accountability. And it's because we're so passionate. You see this in so many fan bases that get frustrated beyond belief because you see what is the potential, and what you're being told is that we are at that potential, but we know we're not. We know there is an accountability. And just to the earlier point too, one thing I would like to change, I guess, for next year, I think the flags being presented by contestants rule is a very interesting one, because we are being told by the EBU that certain countries are permitted to compete still because they are not representing their country. They're representing a broadcaster, and the importance of that broadcaster remaining. So if we are representing a broadcaster, why are we even showing countries' flags to begin with? Or is it specifically like it doesn't add up for me? It is that they recognize there is a connection to the country itself. And if we look further into like governments being involved, obviously, I think there really needs to be something done immediately to just address the accountability side of things and just be honest, because we are watching this and we know you're being dishonest and no one is falling for it. That's why we're booing. It's not we're booing this performer. We're booing this specific person. Although actually, yeah, when that person is tied to the accountability or lack
Or
thereof,
more like
we
an
do boo that
institution.
person.
It's not personal.
Yeah.
Here's also what it is. Let's think about it when it comes to Russia and their competing. When Russia was getting booed, it was because they were sending a peace ballad. And it's like, why are you sending a peace ballad when you're clearly an aggressor state? And that disingenuousness of the broadcaster or the country using their broadcaster and the performer for propagandic purposes is why Russia was getting booed. But when Russia sent, You're the Only One, Sergei Lazarev, no one booed him. When Russia sent, or like maybe some people booed, when Russia sent Russian Woman, people weren't booing that. Like, it's like if you're showing up and you're basically just coming in and doing blatant in-your-face propaganda, a lot of people aren't going to respond well to that. And I think that, we want to see Eurovision's used as a soft power stick. It's there for soft power. And if you're going to show up and say, oh, look how peaceful I am with my peace ballad, people are going to go, are you though? And that's where you can get that booing reaction. And like, yeah, I just feel like it's one of those things where we have to be conscious. Like, if you're conscientious of this and what you're sending, then you're going to have to be okay with people booing it. And you're going to have to be okay with people being booed as from the production standpoint as well.
And that's the thing too, I think, is sorry. But essentially what I was going to say in response to all of what you guys were saying is that the instances which booing happens in Eurovision are so low compared to other just general franchises that happen on TV for a live audience. You can have the worst performance anyone has ever seen in the entire decade, but if you do it genuinely and if you aren't trying to provoke people, or if you're not trying to send a message that's inaccurate to your local polity, then you don't get booed. You still get cheers. So that I feel like, if you're suppressing the audience just in the instance that they will be booed, you can't be the EBU, you can't be the committee who organizes the EBU without understanding that it's only these times that booing actually happens. You only feel the need to suppress the audience and that response if you understand that there's something that needs to be covered up. And that is just, yeah, it's grimy, it's gross, but yeah, you don't really, especially with a Eurovision audience, if someone is genuine and if someone is performing to the best of their ability, even if you hate it, even if the song is not up your alley or the performance just absolutely flops, booing is not that commonplace. And that's just it laid in the message and the theory of the contest.
It's the typical, okay, thanks for coming, you tried. Not my cup of tea, but you tried. We appreciate you're here. I could have never done this. You're representing your entire nation. Your nation supports you. So we, yeah, thanks for coming. That's usually if you completely stink up the joint and you have a song no one likes and you performed it poorly, hey, thanks for coming.
There'll still be an audience for you, no matter how niche it is.
I wanted to add on the booing aspect that if the organization behind this event is aware of how problematic its leadership is being perceived, why would booing even impact the kids contest? We have reports from the rehearsals of last year's junior that they had to skip Martin's appearance on the show because during the rehearsals he got booed by the audience, and the host broadcaster that year, Spain's RTV, they were demanded to shut the audience, and that's it. Nope, we're sorry, we're not shutting the audience down, and that's why on the voting segment they skipped directly to Mark and Ruth, presenting the points right away, and they give the good to go. And I also, when it comes to this year, he appeared in a bunker, allegedly because inside the arena being smaller, his booth did not fit inside of the arena, but it was better for him to be placed in a room inside the complex where the whole set could fit, allegedly.
He's making an insane amount of money just giving a thumbs up. Other than verifying the votes, when he appears on camera, he's just doing this. And he saves himself humiliation by doing so, by not being a part of the audience, by not being a part of the community. He removes himself completely, but he is the ultimate decision maker. Martin, I hope you can hear this.
Okay, well, let's get away from that spicy take. I do see a comment here that I want to highlight because this is also something I like to see have a change going forward. Sundrop Center says, remember when Nemo smuggled the non-binary flag onto the stage? That was pretty sweet. I think that this whole you can only have flags provided by the production thing needs to go. Like, can we not, like, the Eurovision's been a place, and like part of the reason I fell in love so much with Eurovision is it was a very queer friendly space. There's a lot of people who are openly queer who compete in Eurovision, and it's giving visibility. And I know like a large number of people who are non-binary, basically every non-binary person I've ever met, they didn't know that that was a thing you could be. And so how many people are now being denied the chance to learn about a gender identity they wouldn't be normally aware of, and go, oh, that makes sense, that's who I am, you know? Or like I have friends who are trans and they didn't realize that was something you could be until they met other trans people, and then they were able to like finally, you know, have words for how they felt their whole lives. And like even beyond that, just anyone who is on the LGBT plus spectrum, like all of these people, oh, what's that flag, what does that flag mean? I can now look this up and know, oh, this is the word for how I felt my whole life. And I just think that like limiting it to just here's a flag that we're providing you for the country you represent. I'm sorry, the broadcaster that you are representing, the country that broadcaster is placed in. Here's a flag for that. And I want to see people be able to bring in their own, you know, flags again.
I remember Cecile mentioning that she could have wanted to bring the Faroese flag because she is from that region of Denmark, but couldn't do so as a result. And I know similarly, in Australia, you sometimes bring the Aboriginal flag in a tourist flag too, so that would not have been possible.
Yeah. Like with Australia, from what I understand, they have 3 official flags for Australia that you can possibly use. But yeah, why are we only showing the one Australian? I mean, I know Gojo's team had one of the Aboriginal flags with them. I'm guessing they snuck it in or something. But like, you're now limiting people because look, last year Electric Fields performed, and Zachariah is an Indigenous Australian. So now you're saying to him, or I'm not sure what Zachariah's pronouns are, but you're now saying to this artist that, hey, your people who've been genocided, you can't represent them. That's messed up. Or like, let's say with Kaino, or with other times we've had Sami artists perform, you can't have a Sami flag all of a sudden, even though you are from a minority group that's been oppressed by the majority population. And when it comes to Sissel bringing a Faroese flag, that would have been lovely for her to do. What if Denmark selects a Greenlandic artist next year? And with the whole situation with Greenland and the aggression, unfortunately, from the country I live in, that person should be able to say, hey, here's my Greenlandic flag. I'm representing, my people, and I'm representing, us at Eurovision. And it's a bad taste in my mouth. I need to get rid of that rule.
Yeah, and it's not only that rule, but for me, it's that entire flattening of. So, what we had last year, we had some complaints after how things went down for 2024. And the response to that was pure performative crisis management. It was, here's some different things that an independent investigator found. And then here's the ways we address them that aren't actually getting to the root of the issue, but are going to make it harder for outsiders to be able to take good notes about how this went wrong, the way people had too much press access in 2024, and that's where they were able to see and say so much that was happening. So we're going to eliminate some of that press access that we've given people before. We have too many divisive things happening, too many things that maybe we're getting complaints here and there. So we'll just make a firm rule around it. And that's so much of what they did was, well, then we'll just spell out more things more completely. And so now there's a hard rule instead of an inferred rule or the spirit of something. But none of it addressed the things that actually really were causing the tensions and causing the headaches and causing the problems, which is why we're really relitigating everything all over again this year. And so that's, to me, is the biggest thing, is that we have some actual changes that hit root causes and impact the things that are making the show unpleasant to watch, making the show stressful to be passionate about, and just not giving us the experience that we should be having each year. And so I think, to me, that's the one thing, is I want to see actual real change happening. And one of the things that I want to see, just going back to that, is with the televote, I would like to see that televote window open when the grand final is over, instead of having the rest of the world open for 24 hours in advance and having that window open the entire 3 hours. Like I said, I got hit. I'm the person who, I love the live performances. It's why I watch. That's why I want it to be there. And I still had that piece this year. And I was just like, all right, I'll just go ahead and vote early because I know who my favorites are. I've been listening to these songs. This way I don't have to pull my phone out later. So did my votes, and then had that moment where Ukraine just took me by the throat again. And I was like, oh no, I didn't allocate any of my 10 votes to them. I have to, we're voting again. I had so many people I've seen talk about how they had casuals with them who loved Albania and had already voted. And so how many more times do we have that, where we had people, Sweden, they were later in the show. We had other, folks who we feel like they underperformed in the televote, but how many people have already given however many votes they're going to give by the time they see something that they're actually newly impressed with? And that can happen. So that's, to me, one of the biggest parts of televote reform, but there's a lot of pieces of televote we want to see changed. And I'm not going to just spend all of the time talking about that, because I know you all have opinions on it too.
I want to jump into the televote part. Another reform I would suggest is that, which I really like Brooke's suggestions, I would also make sure that the televote, since it's open from the beginning of each show, that it closes 10 to 20 minutes after the last performance. We don't need an additional 30, 40 minutes of voting if we are able to vote from the beginning of the show. We just need an additional 10, 15 minutes tops additional after the last performance, one big recap, and that's it. We don't need to extend ourselves so much with the voting times. Back in the 90s, when televote was first implemented, televoting only lasted 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes. One recap, and that was it. You don't need more. And
I'm sorry.
I think that would also contribute to make the show, instead of 4 hours, 3.5 hours tops, maybe. I don't know. Save yourselves a little bit more of time. I don't know.
The fact that we're discussing bringing back 100% jury voting is kind of telling to the discussion we're having right now. They're probably not going to happen because that would change the contest for the wrong reasons. But the fact that people bring it up in conversation is a bit frightening. That being said, I agree shrinking the voting window back to just after all the performances are done is a good start, just because you wouldn't necessarily you choke out some of the spam voting that way. But at the same time, I could understand the rest of the world being 24 hours in advance just because how to handle different time zones. But one thing that would have to change is knowing the song, and we're not sure how to do that. Another thing is with spam voting, you'd have to it's only tied to a credit card outside of Europe and Australia. I was thinking of tying it to your IP or your email, but there's flaws to that too.
Yeah, I mean,
Ooh,
oh,
please,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
on. I was gonna just bring up something because we had brought this up, and then Nola brought it up, and it was something I thought about when Brooke was speaking as well, which is, out of the 4 years the televote opened at the start of the final, 2010, 2011, 2024, and 2025, 3 of these years had very spread out results that led to a random result too. I don't know if, and that's first, the second part of that was, it's related to the lower quality of songs these 3 years had compared to the other years, though. Because for me, when I was like, wait a second, the last time I remember having it open for so long was back in 2011. And those also being like a little bit wild of results, too. They were very spread out and not super predictable. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that real quick. And I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Andrew?
So I think that there's an important balance to remember here. When we talk about we talked about fandoms, right? One of the biggest things that lots of fandoms and fan groups do is gatekeeping. When we talk about a contest like Eurovision, we just talked about a lot of people who are brand new to the competition, don't understand. You know, Brooke, your example, I'm not saying that you're a noob. I'm just saying that, like, if someone was watching the competition and someone had just been experiencing it for the first time, great example. My mother-in-law really loved Iceland's performance when they opened the first semifinal. She's like, oh, I hope the kids do well, you know. And so she was already ready to be like, you know, if she wanted to vote, she didn't vote. It was if she wanted to vote, she's like, oh yeah, I have to give them votes. I don't like the idea of an early window, because then you run into what I call a lot of the like blind voting, or just blind loyalism, right? I know people that are really passionate about their home countries they're from, whatever else, but no longer live there, and they're gonna, I don't even know what the song is, I'm gonna vote for them anyway, I know I've got plenty of time, I'm just gonna do it, have no clue who the artist is, away we go. I like opening the voting. Hey, everybody performed, now's your time to vote, here's a recap. Augusto, I understand that there's a want to have a shorter performance in a shorter time window, and I've thought about that too, because I think about when other countries are performing, and I'm like, ugh. But then I remember it's only 3 minutes. It's the skits and the sketches on the other whatnot that they're things that you could cut. But again, we're talking about gatekeeping. There are a lot of people that are new to this competition. They need time to digest. They need those recaps. I could tell you, every single time I watch Eurovision with someone new, we never skip a recap, even if it was the same one we saw before, even if it was the countdown backwards. And I think that people need that time to piece everything together, because then it's like they go into their little lab, they're on their iPhone notes, they're doing whatever else. They get the recap again as sort of like a, all right, is this right? Am I making good choices? And then sort of that third or fourth time, I think they only do 3, but all right, did I make the good choice? Am I doing it? Am I doing it? Am I doing it? And after that, they're like, all right, cool, let's plug it in. And now that the way the app works, it's great. You do your thing and off it goes. So I still think it's important to do that. I think earlier voting. And then the other thing that we'll talk about, right, is this 24-hour window, because you want to accommodate for countries that it's not an ideal viewing time. And to that I say, how many people in America still watch Premier League soccer at the earliest hours of the day?
Mm-hmm. In the Pacific Standard Time, some games start as early as 4 a.m.
And people will wake up for it. Eurovision is a one time of year thing. People, it's like the Super Bowl for so many people. No one's going to watch it on tape delay. Well, I mean, I'll watch it slightly delay, but like if they're voting and they have a vested interest in these countries that are performing, they will make the time for it. And I'm sorry, it's one of those like, hey, suck it up. But like, I think the early window's got to go. I think you open that voting as soon as everyone's performed. You give them their 2 hours of pomp and circumstance. You give them their recaps. You give them a chance. I'm sorry, I didn't think I'd be so passionate about this, but here we go. And that's my take. And y'all can take that or leave that. I'm sure folks have thoughts, but again, it's that idea of we want to bring new people into liking Eurovision, right? This is the point of Eurovision, to bring people together, give them a chance to have that opportunity to really absorb the moment, take it in, and not just go, ooh, I forgot. Ooh, I made a mistake. Oh, I'll get it right next year. Anyway, there you go.
I mean, aside from the practicality, sorry, just
You go.
one short thing. But aside from the practicality of the fact that a shorter voting window kind of has that rush of votes and they kind of do look more specific, is the fact that there is more excitement to a shorter window. It's not just due to the fact that it is by the time constraint, as Andrew was mentioning, that when someone does make time for this, they do allocate that time to make sure that they are paying attention to when this is happening. And by extension, they just generally feel like they have more power with their vote by doing that, as opposed to if they are just watching the entire show and their votes are just kind of like stacking and changing depending on who is coming up next. It just feel like there's a lot less excitement overall when the voting comes in, or like when the voting begins and you still haven't seen maybe what's probably going to be your favorite. It just seems slightly more boring to me in a way.
Mm-hmm. And like some of these ideas where we have had changes don't come from like nowhere. There are benefits in some capacity. So sure, if someone is really passionate and they aren't able to get up at that time of day, then like it could benefit that individual. But I think we're relying on a ton of assumptions of that even the fact that voting is open early, they say, oh, it's because everyone has had an opportunity to see all the songs. What percentage of people have actually done that though? Like the people in the fandom who are actually watching the semifinals, maybe they would be more likely to vote pretty accordingly to how they might vote after seeing the final. But there's probably a ton of people who have not seen the performances or have seen one or two and are voting, or none completely, and are just voting like people have referenced based off of I have a connection to this country specifically. So I think one of the big things that needs to get addressed is just in televoting specifically, like how do we ensure it's actually reflective of the population who is watching? And part of that also comes down to the fact that like voting costs money. Some people have a ton of money and they can just throw down with 5 different credit cards 100 votes like nothing. Other people are very selective. So you might have a ton of people who are only voting once, twice, 5 times, even like up to 10 would be the maximum for them. But someone who just has income that's disposable and is really passionate about voting, their voting power is significantly more than someone who throws 1 or 2 votes that way. And tied into this is a lot of the changes that I think we would want might not get changed because more votes equals more money. And money controls a lot of these decisions. So possibly one way of going about that is if like each individual person doesn't get up to 20 votes, if it's a lower number, then their power with getting maximum of 10 votes compared to 1 is already half as much as the power is of having 20 votes versus 1. Or another strategy too is that you can only vote for a maximum number of times for one country, but then you could also vote a number of times for like up to 5 countries. So I think if money is going to be driving a lot of probably the decisions, then we probably have to be very creative in limiting the ability for one specific like country to earn so many votes off of single individuals who are willing to spend as much money as possible.
How
And
about
that's
like
not to mention that in some countries like Estonia or Finland, voting can be prohibitively expensive per vote.
each broadcaster kind of like limits how much each person spends? So I think Germany's is like 25 cents per vote, whereas other places it's like 99 cents, if not more. I don't know. I think when it comes to voting, I would maybe want to see a try at what Junior does, which is you have to vote for other countries. You can't just vote for one country. You can vote for your own country, but you have to give other people some love too, for the vote to go through. But like limiting it to just kind of like the post-show recap, I like, which this person seems to agree with as well. So we've been going for a little more than an hour here, and I kind of want to move on to what we're hoping to see in 2026. We'll kind of each go around and keep it short with this. So we'll go ahead and start with Kevin. What are you looking forward to seeing next year?
On a personal note, I don't know fully how I feel about Canada participating, but I'm interested in seeing the discussion of it because right now, more than any time recently, I've seen a lot of discussion in the Canadian media about Canada and Eurovision and our connection to the contest. I saw, based on the data, I think just behind the US, we were the source of the second most votes from the rest of the world this year, which I think is new. I don't remember that being a stat from previous years. And even our prime minister, who was recently elected, had a conversation with Australia's prime minister about how Australia was robbed this year. So it's very much in conversation, way more than typical. So whether or not it actually happens, we're also, as you're probably aware, seeking some new global partners in various areas and trying to retain that connection to Europe that we've had. Even like the King was just here. Lots of different thoughts related to that. But I think more so than ever, there's going to be discussion about Canada and its role in Eurovision. So that'll be exciting, but don't fully know how I feel completely about it, but we'll see.
I had to highlight that one. Also, one from Danilo to give you a little Canadian tease. I honestly, maybe the Canada Song Contest is coming. Finally, we'll see what happens.
So, yeah, I do know our broadcaster, CBC, is the one that has the like EBU, whatever the affiliation association level with it. And I know it's high cost. Thankfully, the party that was planning on defunding that did not win. So there is more hope than previously thought.
Well, I'm just glad that arts funding is still a thing and is still very important in your country. Not jealous, not at all. Anyway, for me, I think there are a lot of things. We've already talked about really letting audiences' voices be heard, really about minimizing barriers to entry and gatekeeping. And I think we've all sort of found our way with that. But I want, selfishly, especially for the people that are newer to Eurovision and trying to understand it, we every once in a while kind of have a celebrity entrant. And what I mean by that is when Flo Rida, right, was with San Marino, when Celine Dion was a hired gun for, fill in the blank. And I understand that there are quote unquote celebrities that do perform at Eurovision, but they are celebrities within the Eurovision circuit. I mean, folks that are like a little more known in popular music. I think Ali from Years and Years, if you're in that niche, you sort of knew who Ali is. But I would love to see one of those, like how Flo Rida was just like kind of there. It's like, oh, cool, Flo Rida's in Eurovision? What? He's from San Marino? Ooh, let's update that Wikipedia real fast before people start looking it up. Totally did. Good job, Wikipedia. Good job, press team for Flo Rida. But I'd like to see that. I'd like to see, and also I was teased with the idea that Joe Hendry, a professional wrestler who's in TNA and WWE, was teasing that he would be the entrant for the UK this past year. He's a Scotsman too, so I'm a little biased in that I want to see some Scots as well in Eurovision representing the UK next year. Those I think I want a little celebrity spice. I want a Scotsman, Scots person, Scots woman, Scots individual representing the UK because. Yeah, UK needs. And I think those are sort of my biggies. Having voices be heard, particularly from the audience, like we've all talked about, and really making Eurovision the inclusion-focused, welcoming experience we all know and love and want it to be. There we go. There's my little pretty bow.
Other than peace, love, and understanding being in the climate of what's going on the following year, more languages will be really happy. I mean, Jam came in 8th. Austria came in 6th. We got 2 French language songs in the top 10. Not the top 3, unfortunately, but Swedish made it in 4th. We need more languages. More. And Baller became a hit. That's really what I would like. Ideally, I would also like Jaguar Jones to represent Australia. Sorry, Augusto. Sorry, Brooke. With all due respect. But it would depend on if she's recovered from some health issues. And I would love to see her bloom on the stage.
I want to add that, yes, Brooke and I adore Delta Goodrum. We're dying to see her represent Australia at Eurovision, especially with some recent interview she gave to a British tabloid recently. I was like, oh, so it is for real that she's now interested, huh? Now she is. Well, anyway, as we mentioned, the expansion of the Eurovision brand across the world, after the colossal failure that the American Song Contest was 3 years ago, although it gave us great bops, I'll say I still listen to 5 songs to this day and age. Okay? Let me defend my little experiment. But, I'm very skeptical that the Latin American version of Eurovision is ever going to happen. I'm very skeptical. I've seen the rumor mill. I saw some discussion on the ESC Discord earlier today, and I told folks over there, like, look, Viña del Mar in their international competition, that is secondary to what Viña del Mar works. This is irrelevant. It's a filler, and it's there because it's tradition. People do not care. The arena of 50,000 people that is La Quinta Vergara is not filled by the international competition. Let's make it very clear. It's the Bookies, Anitas, Carol G's, Wisin and Yandels, or whatever big old name they can book, is the one that will fill any night of that venue, not the international competition in its pop and folklore versions. Not them. The comedians, also secondary. Just to leave it out there to any international fans watching this, do not use Viña del Mar for Latin America. It's the only thing that exists now in this region. We don't care. And I apologize for my tone. We do not care. And I'm a northerner in the Caribbean. We do not care. It lost relevancy 20 years ago. Back to the topic. I love what Elda said about more languages at Eurovision. I love the variety we had in 2025. I hope it remains in 2026. The more, the merrier. It gives us variety, gives us culture, gives us fun. So I hope it sticks. I really do. So I'm going to leave it right there.
I think what I would want coming this year. Okay, so a little bit of background before I provide my point. I was at the Bay Area Book Fest yesterday, and I had met with someone who was working with a publisher, and we were just talking about Eurovision. She mentioned that she had only watched the last 2 years because of the press coverage that Eurovision had. So I don't know if it's a problem with American press. I don't know if it is just kind of what's ejected from the EBU press family, but the publicity that Eurovision gets in the United States, at least, is really supported from the bottom by its controversies. I remember it was something like Jimmy Fallon or one of those TV hosts back in 2016 only covering Jamala because of the situation with Crimea. And it's only
That
these
was
situations.
last week tonight. That was John Oliver. He also did it last year too with Windows 95 Man.
Well, Well, I did see that piece of coverage, but my point basically is when Americans are exposed to this kind of a thing, it's very rarely with the intention of what people like us, press sites, are trying to do by showing why we love the contest, by showing all the great things that the contest can bring to you. It's mostly the kind of political spectrum of the contest and how that can play into the general geopolitical framework that they understand. I want better publicity with that, and just, yeah, better exposure to what the contest truly is. And the second thing, if a broadcaster needs or would really like a song to be censored or wants it altered in a certain way because of how its country would be perceived, do that off the bat. BBC, you did not need to wait 4 weeks to turn content into serving. That was just like, what the hell are you doing? You didn't need to wait that long. You knew it was that way for a long time. If you have a problem with it, deal with it off the bat. So those are my points of how the contest, I think, should be improved.
I have a confession to make. I tend to write those Eurovision in context of what's going on, so there's that.
I mean, yeah, we are responsible to some degree of that, but that is not the breadth of our material. A lot of what we talk about is why we love the show and historical artifacts from the show that people wouldn't be able to view if they're just watching the recent year. So yeah, I mean, we're still doing the right thing, at least I think. But yeah, that's my point.
My hopes for 2026, aside from just, I'm gonna keep beating the drum on meaningful reform. Like, things have to change. We know they have to change. And it's that same piece of, honestly, if we haven't seen the change by the time, even national final season rolls around, I am just going to be enjoying my national finals. I'm going to have a playlist. I'm going to know who won. I'm not going to worry about Eurovision so much next year, because we do know without change, what we're going to see is jury winner versus Israel for the foreseeable, while this is the voting methods that we have, while points are doled out this way. And one, that's less interesting for me. And two, we're not going to get artists who are going to want to join, because why are you going to put your name, your reputation, your song on the line? Why are you going to write a song you're going to have to sing until you're 90 time in cash, when you actually don't have a chance because you're not going to win the jury, and it doesn't matter how much you have? And so now you've got espresso macchiato in your back pocket, and you've got people who are going to clamor for it, and maybe you're not as sold on it as being something you want to go perform every single day. And so we lose out on those artists who aren't going to want to be a part of something where they know they either have to completely dominate, win over the audience, which some of them are going to want to do. There's going to be a few who are going to be enticed by that, who are going to say, I've got the song, I've got a cha-cha-cha, I've got something huge, this is going to go over big, and I'm going to just nail this. And then you have other people who are just like, man, I wanted to get more ears on my music. I wanted to do this, but I don't want to go and be embarrassed to get 2 points because only 2 songs get any televote points, because everybody knows the only way to compete with the jury, with the jury winner, is if you've got a televote that just goes hard on 1 or 2 songs. So I want to see years like this. We talked about how, the idea that maybe this year wasn't up to the standard of other years, but for me, that's what made it interesting, is that the songs were of a similar quality. We didn't have a front runner. We didn't have 1 or 2 songs that were clearly like just so impactful and huge, and you could see the audience for it, and you could say that's a song that's going to appeal to so many people that it's going to just like take over things. We had a bunch of songs that were very similar and very comparable, and I think it felt more competitive the whole time. But we know what the pattern is. We know what it's going to continue to be. So I want to see change. I'm hoping for that. And on a personal note, I want Delta. So Australia, like, give me my girl Delta. She wants it. Let me have her. Like, give her me. Delta me, please now. Delta. Or, I mean, see, the thing is, I know you're never going to give me, I'm not going to get King Giz and the Lizard Wizard from Australia. They're not going to give me a 3-minute song that is going to be vocally impressive and not all live instruments. So we're never going to see that. You're never going to get to introduce, maybe your greatest band to the world, Australia. Give me Delta.
Well, Savage Garden's never getting back together, so.
Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and say somebody already echoed what I wanted to see, which is I just want new countries in ESC. I like to see the contest expand. I want to see new countries. I want to see other countries come back. I think it would just be really nice to have a contest that is bigger, and I would love to see Bosnia and Herzegovina back. I know they want to come back, they just don't have the money for it. So if we can find a way of getting them that funding, let's get them that funding.
The question is if the EBU thinks it's a priority to bring these Southern and Eastern European countries back, but that's another topic.
It doesn't look like.
It doesn't look like it is, but that's a side story. I want the EBU reference group to have more Eastern European countries on it.
I agree.
Because right now it's very Western skewed, and we keep seeing in the results we're getting very Western skewed results. When, as far as I'm concerned, who's the only Eastern European countries that have won? Ukraine, Russia, Estonia, Serbia, and Latvia, right?
Yes.
Azerbaijan, albeit.
I mean, that's a caucus. And that was also shady. That one I don't believe in. I don't care what anyone says. It was suspicious. And I will stand by that statement.
I'm on your boat.
Turkey also had a win.
Turkey too.
And I'm not suspicious of Turkey's win because I'm sorry, Eurovision tends to be a couple of years behind. Turkey's one is one of the few songs that sounded like it was from the year it came from. It won. It sounded like what was happening on the pop charts that year. But yeah, that's my thing is I'd like to see more countries come back or more countries debut within Europe or within the EBU's broadcast zone. Not necessarily just partner whatevers. So yeah. I'm sorry, I just read a comment. Which was like one day we'll probably be just back to 1956 contest where there were just 7 countries. Honestly, I think if things don't change, we might be looking at a 1970 situation next year. But that's a whole side story. Thank you guys so much for joining us this season here. During the off season, we of course have articles and whatnot still going up on the Eurovision Fam website. We've got different things happening on, on the social media site and like everything else. We've got like Instagram, Twitter, another one I can't think of the name of right now. And you can find us there as Eurovision Fam. Links are in the description box. Guess everyone just go ahead and give your quick sign off of where people can find you other than on Eurovision Fam.
I also do want to say very quickly, during the summer is one of those really nice one-off situations where we do a rewatch of a previous year. If you guys have any ideas, you can communicate with us via any of our channels. We love rewatching during the summer. It's just a great way for us to reconnect with you guys. And you can take a kind of a glimpse into what our opinions are of those songs. It's a lot of fun. So if you guys have any ideas, please shoot them our way.
All right. And just, I guess we'll start with Kevin. Everyone just go ahead and sound off where people can find you.
Yeah, so for Eurovision specifically, I'm on Blue Sky, ESC Kevin.
For all things social, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, X, even though I'm definitely trying not to be there much longer. It is all Ref Gordo. That is me right there. And in closing, life is like spaghetti. It's hard until you make it.
I don't currently have Blue Sky or Instagram. I have a Tumblr Between the Time and Sound. I have a big 250 project from a few years back, and you can message me if you also want to.
You guys can find me on Instagram. So my Instagram is jordanpastor_author. Shortcake ESC is currently what I have on Twitter/X, but after this year, I will sadly be retiring the Shortcake ESC name, and I will be using a different name with successive years for Eurovision. So this will be the last time I'll be identifying with you guys at Shortcake ESC. It's been a lot of fun, but yes, I'm available on Instagram and on Twitter, and you guys can also just email me as well. You could find all my social ways to contact me through my own website, through my link tree, which you could find on my Instagram or through my X. So it'll be good to talk to you guys again.
And you can find me on Instagram as Helping Friendly Brooke. You can find me on Blue Sky as helpingfriendly.bluesky.social or whatever. You can also email me, thehelpingfriendlybrooke@gmail.com, and find more links to me there. So you've got some different options. And I would also just have one more thing that I meant to ask Andrew earlier today. And that is, Andrew, would you say that this year Armenia was kind of masculine drag in the same way that professional wrestling is masculine drag? And do you think that's why it qualified and did so much better than we were expecting?
Oh my gosh. Well, my favorite thing about pro wrestling is you have dudes without pants fighting for a belt. And in Eurovision, you have people with terrible sound mixing fighting for a microphone. And I feel like there's some delicious irony in that. And yeah, that's kind of all I can tie with it. But Brooke, I appreciate that reference, and I'm very happy for that. And I thank you. It touched me.
You're welcome.
And last
I had
but
to
not
highlight it.
least, And last but not least, it's me, your boy Augusto, on Twitter and Blue Sky as AC Dominguez. That's my last name. You can find me there. On Instagram and Threads as Augusto C. Dominguez. Yes, it's a little long. I'm sorry. And you can also find Eurovision Fam on Instagram and Threads as Eurovision_Fam. Please come along, follow us. We're also going to be sharing content on Instagram and Threads throughout the summer. So stay tuned. And thank you so much to all of you for taking your time and joining us tonight.
Bye, everyone.
Life be better